Hey, welcome back to another Tiny Tip Tuesday. My name is Connie Knox, a lifelong genealogist, here to help you go further, faster, and factually with your family research. Now, today we're going to talk about how to merge two people in Ancestry and how to avoid duplicating people in your tree for future reference. Okay, so one of the things you need to know is that Ancestry highly recommends that you don't delete a person, but that you merge. So if you have two people with the same, that are really the same person, they could have two different names. One could be a married name and one could be a maiden name. You could have imported it accidentally as 2 or 3, 4 of the same people. Sometimes that happens. So we're going to talk about how to merge people. And when Ancestry, I was reading through some of their notes, and one of the things that they say is that you really should not delete one person and try and fix your tree. Merge two people, and I totally agree, because it will bring over data. Like, so if you have, we're going to show an example here of Margaret Clark. So you have Margaret Clark and Minerva Margaret Clark. Two people that might have two sets of data. You might have some sources here and you might have some sources here. And so we need to get all of the information in one place. And so that's one of the cool things about merging. So we're going to do that right now. We're going to jump into this tree, and we're going to, there's a couple different ways you can find duplicated people. If you happen to be working in your tree and you've discovered them, you can. Now, one of the things you can do is just go to the list of all people. Now, I have thousands of people in my tree. So going through this list and discovering where there are people that are duplicated is a lot of work. Here we have 2 different birth dates, so more than likely that's 2 different people. And please be careful of that. Don't merge people unless you're absolutely sure that they are the same person. I'm going to type Clark. And I'm going to search this way because I know that I made an extra Margaret Clark here. I had to fake this because, quite frankly, I didn't have any duplicates that I felt were a good example. So I have a Margaret Clark here and a Minerva Margaret Clark. Okay. So what you can do is you can open one up. There is a couple different ways you can do this. You can click on the tools icon and say merge with duplicate from here, or you can come over here and say merge with duplicate here. So if we click on this one, now we've put into our merge queue, if you will, Minerva Margaret Clark, and this is the gal that is in my tree with all the source information. So here we're going to type Margaret Clark. So let's pretend that we've written this down because we were out there doing some research and we discovered that we had 2 people in our tree. Now, again, a word of caution, especially with men. You could have John Henley and John Henley, and it could be one's a junior and one's a senior, or it could be one's a grandfather and one's a grandchild. So please, please make sure that you are merging the right people. And if you're not sure, you can always open them up in 2 different tabs and examine the information in more detail. Now here it is giving us the information, and I again created this just a few minutes ago just to show you. So in this case we've got the same birth and death information. Now we could select a different person right here. If we go, wait a minute, this is not the right person, we could come up here and select a different person. Now this actually happened to me with this particular woman because she's got kind of a bizarre name in that I've seen it Minerva Margaret Clark, Maggie Clark. I've seen it with her married name. This is her maiden name. And by the way, always use maiden names, and please don't use quotes. Now, when you go like her nickname's Maggie, don't put that in quotes because it messes up the algorithm for Ancestry. What you want to do is use another field, and I can show you that in a second, about how to use also known as another name, Maggie, okay? And that way everything searches properly. So then we hit merge. So if we go back to the tree, and it doesn't really matter where we are in the tree, and we come to the tree search, and now we search for Clark, we only have one Margaret Clark. There is no other Margaret Clark. We have merged that woman successfully. One of the things that I want to point out, when you click on name and gender, here we've got alternate where we had merged in Maggie, which is really kind of a also known as field. But if we click on this and we say edit, we'll notice that this is a preferred name. We always want the full name if we can. This alternate name is really the also known as name, right? But we could mark it as preferred if that is the preferred name. So here's another example. We've got Melissa Ann Smith. So we can add an alternate name, also known as, and add in Melissa and hit add. And now when you scroll down to the bottom, the also known as facts are down at the bottom. It used to be at the top, and I don't like that. I wish they would leave it in the name field because it's way down here at the bottom. But that's where it is. So you can also edit that again and say, you know, put the last name in, Smith, and save it and hit close. And if you don't like that, you can go in and delete that out of there. So that is the alternate name field. Now we're going to jump over to talk about how to avoid duplicating in the first place. Okay, so here's how we avoid duplicating. I'm back in the tree. We're going to take a look at this Samuel Osborne. He's got 19 hints. So here's how you could accidentally duplicate someone in a tree. So usually when you're checking out other members' trees and you go to review this, now we're in the selection view that says 13 member trees are showing information about this guy. Okay, so if we go and we click on this guy and we go, okay, I believe this information to be correct. Now notice all the spouse and children information, right? All the spouse and children information. Okay, here's how this works. Let's pretend for a moment we selected all the trees. We go, okay, yep, I'm just going to select them all, and I'm going to import all this information without really verifying it, which is, you know, a big no-no, but we're going to do this anyway. And so when we go to review the selected tree hints, it loads all of this data. And now we've got tons of things to examine: new people, new marriage, Sarah Ann. So let's pretend for a moment that we're going to import these other people. We're going to import all the kids. I don't do this normally because this is where you end up with duplicated people. But if we were to add all these new people, look at this. Here it is, right here. Cynthia Osborne, Cynthia Osborne. Now we're going to do this just to make the mistake to show you why you don't want to do this. So what's going to happen here is one person's tree puts Cynthia in there, and another person's tree puts Cynthia in there, and they might have slightly different information. See, here we've got Wayne, West Virginia, and you've got a death place. There's no information here that exactly matches. The death date is not the same. Perhaps this was a baby that died, or it's not a new person or whatever. But if this is the same person and you import it like this, you're going to have duplicated people. So I hope that was helpful because I personally, it's a really convenient feature to be able to merge that stuff in. And if you look very carefully through all the little details as you go, then that's fine. You can do that. But boy, I really like to look at the source information first. I want to see, okay, where did these people come up with this information? How do they know that each link along the way is correct? And that's what professional researchers do, is they're making sure they're verifying everything. And if we all verify, right, then then this tree, even though, Ancestry has a bunch of different individual trees, the hinting features that they're pulling in are going to be way more accurate for everybody. So just really try and verify your information. I want to point something out too. Here's a really cool new little feature. Check this out. So in this particular person, I'm going to scroll down just a little bit. This particular person is showing up in a hint that for Virginia 1910 Census Mirror Code Index, which is a really old index, but just for fun, they've got a quick comparison. You can now turn this on and you can compare in this record against what's in your tree. Isn't that kind of cool? So here we got the 1910 Census, Benjamin F. Booth with Benjamin Franklin Booth. In this record, he's born about 1848. That's because it's a census and it doesn't give you the exact birth date. Again, my information says he was born in 1842. Residence, 1910 Berlin and Ivor, Southampton, Virginia. Personally, I don't think this is right, so I could ignore this. Ta-da! Why do I make that decision? Again, this is one of those new features that they have. So I'm going to say that the relationships are not accurate, and I'm just going to leave it at that. So that in a nutshell kind of gives you how to not have duplicated people in your tree in the first place. And so again, you can go to the tree search feature and take a look and see who you have duplicated in there. Now some of the software that you can download, I think Family Tree Maker might have it, where you can actually look for duplicated people in your tree. Again, really examine it carefully, because if you have a junior and a senior, John Henley Jr. and a John Henley Sr., or they might even have the exact same middle names, and unless you're looking very carefully, the dates, and have really good evidence, I wouldn't be merging people if you're not sure. But if you're sure that you got duplicated people, merge them in, because boy, it can really kind of mess up your tree. Sometimes you'll see it too if you've got intermarriages, cousins marrying cousins. Then when you import information from one cousin's information, and then you import a family from another cousin who somewhere along the line within that clan had intermarried, then you might end up with duplicates that way as well. So be careful of that. Okay? If you like that, give us a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe and ring the bell so that you get notified each time we upload a video. Okay, until next time, keep on climbing your family tree.